I'm leaving you, and I've already sold the house to move in with my new girl. Good luck finding a place." Those were the words that completely shattered my 18-year marriage in a single phone call. But here's the thing. My husband had absolutely no idea what he'd just walked into. What happened next? Well, let's just say karma has a way of delivering the most brutal justice when you least expect it. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one because the ending will absolutely blow your mind and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about revenge. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I share real-life stories about justice, betrayal, and people getting exactly what they deserve when they think they're untouchable. And today's story, it's honestly one of the most satisfying tales of instant karma I've ever come across. Before we dive deep into this incredible journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because stories like this don't come around every day. Also, let me know in the comments, have you ever had someone try to steal something that belonged to you? Because that's exactly what happened here, and the consequences were absolutely devastating. Now, let me introduce you to Natalie Pierce, a 43-year-old commercial real estate powerhouse who was about to teach her scheming husband the most expensive lesson of his entire life. This woman had built an empire with her bare hands, and she was not about to let anyone, especially her own husband, tear it down. Picture this scenario for a moment. You're sitting in a high-stakes business meeting, about to close a major deal worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, when your phone rings. It's your husband of 18 years, and he's calling to tell you he's not just leaving you, he's already sold your house from under you. Can you even imagine the audacity? That's exactly what happened to Natalie Pierce, an incredibly successful commercial real estate broker operating in Jersey City, New Jersey. For nearly 2 decades, she had been the primary breadwinner in her marriage, systematically building a real estate empire, one commission at a time, while her husband Alan treated her remarkable success like it was his personal ATM machine. This woman started her company, Graven Hall Group Properties, in a tiny cramped office above a sandwich shop 15 years ago. Through sheer determination, brilliant business instincts, and relentless hard work, she had grown it into a commercial real estate powerhouse that handled properties throughout northern New Jersey. But here's where this story gets absolutely fascinating, and why you need to pay attention to every single detail. Alan wasn't just unfaithful. He wasn't just greedy and opportunistic. He was about to commit one of the most audacious acts of fraud you've ever heard of, and he had absolutely no idea that his wife had been preparing for this exact scenario for years. You see, Alan had a long, expensive history of financial disasters that had nearly destroyed them multiple times. First, there were the gambling debts when Natalie was 35, massive crushing debts that she had to bail him out of using her own hard-earned money. Then came the failed restaurant investment 2 years later, another catastrophic loss that drained their savings and put them in serious financial jeopardy. But the final straw was last year's cryptocurrency nightmare that nearly bankrupted them completely. After that third financial disaster, something changed in Natalie. She realized that she couldn't keep allowing Alan's reckless decisions to threaten everything she had worked so hard to build. So she did something incredibly smart, something that would save her life years later. She quietly refinanced their house through her business, LLC, and transferred ownership to Graven Hall Group Properties, her company. The mortgage payments started coming from her business account. The deed was recorded in her company's name, legally, permanently, and completely. Alan never knew. In 18 years of marriage, he had never once looked at their financial documents, never questioned how the bills got paid, never wondered why Natalie had been so insistent about handling all the paperwork after his disasters. He just assumed that because they were married, he had equal claim to everything she had built. Now, Alan thought he was incredibly clever, real clever. He had been planning this elaborate betrayal for months, and in his mind, it was the perfect crime that would set him up for life. Here's exactly what this criminal mastermind did. He started secretly dating a woman named Jessica, someone significantly younger, who was completely convinced that she had landed herself a successful businessman. He spent months convincing her that he owned their house outright, painting himself as this wealthy real estate investor who was being held back by his vindictive wife. But the deception went so much deeper than just an affair. Alan forged Natalie's signature on multiple legal documents. He created a completely fake company called Sunset Properties to act as the buyer for their house. He even convinced Jessica to put up her own money for what she believed was a down payment on their new life together. The woman actually gave him thousands of dollars, thinking she was investing in their future. The plan was diabolically simple: sell the house for well over $500,000, pocket every single penny, and disappear with his new girlfriend before Natalie could do anything to stop him. He was so confident in his scheme, so absolutely certain that he had covered all his bases, that he actually moved Jessica into the house the same day he called Natalie to deliver his devastating news. Can you imagine the sheer audacity? This man thought he could steal $500,000 worth of property, destroy his wife's financial security, and just walk away into the sunset with his mistress. The arrogance is absolutely mind-blowing. But here's what Alan didn't know, and this is where the story gets absolutely incredible. When Natalie hung up that phone in her conference room, she didn't panic. She didn't break down. She didn't even seem particularly surprised. Instead, she felt something she described as cold relief, because she had been preparing for this moment for 2 years. Remember those financial disasters I mentioned? After that cryptocurrency nightmare that nearly destroyed them, Natalie had done something that Alan never bothered to investigate. She had completely restructured their assets to protect herself from his reckless behavior. That house he had just sold? It didn't belong to him. It didn't even belong to both of them. It belonged entirely to Gravenhall Group Properties, Natalie's business entity, which Alan had absolutely zero legal connection to whatsoever. Alan had just attempted to sell a house he didn't own, a house that had been legally transferred to his wife's company 2 years earlier. He had committed massive fraud, forgery, and attempted theft of over $500,000 in property, and he had created a paper trail that would send him to prison for years. When Natalie arrived home that evening, she found the most incredible scene. Alan and Jessica were actively celebrating in what they believed was their new house, discussing paint colors and making elaborate renovation plans. They had boxes scattered everywhere, had completely moved in, and Jessica was proudly showing off her engagement ring that had been paid for with her own money that she had given Alan for the fake down payment. The confidence on their faces was absolutely unbelievable. The smugness, the complete certainty that they had pulled off the perfect crime. They had no idea they were about to experience one of the most brutal reality checks in criminal history. What happened next was absolutely masterful, and I need you to appreciate the incredible calm and precision with which Natalie handled this situation. She walked into her own house like she owned the place, which legally she absolutely did, and calmly asked them to explain exactly what they thought they had purchased and from whom. While they were stumbling over their explanations, trying to maintain their story, Natalie pulled out her phone and called her attorney, Vincent Rodriguez. But she didn't just have a private conversation. She put the call on speaker and had Vincent conference in the title company, right there in front of both of them. Picture this scene: Alan and Jessica standing in what they thought was their new home, surrounded by their belongings, listening as the title company confirmed over speakerphone that the house belonged to Gravenhall Group Properties LLC, had belonged to that entity for 2 years, and that there had been absolutely no transfers, no liens, and no pending sales of any kind. But wait, it gets even better. When they investigated this Sunset Properties company that had supposedly purchased the house, they discovered something incredible. The company didn't exist. It had never existed. The tax identification number on all those professional-looking documents that Alan had created belonged to a defunct landscaping company in Pennsylvania that had been out of business for 5 years. Alan hadn't just committed adultery. He hadn't just committed fraud. He had orchestrated an elaborate criminal conspiracy involving forged documents, identity theft, the creation of a fictitious business entity, and attempted theft of over $500,000 in property. We're talking about multiple felonies that could send him to prison for decades. The look on their faces as this information was revealed was apparently priceless. Jessica, who had finally realized that she had been completely played, that she had given her life savings to a man who had lied to her about literally everything, just stood there in complete shock. Alan, meanwhile, was desperately trying to figure out how his foolproof plan had fallen apart so catastrophically. But here's what I need you to understand about Natalie's character, because this is important. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't vindictive. She wasn't interested in prolonging their suffering or humiliating them further. She was simply done. Done protecting someone who had tried to destroy everything she had built. Done enabling someone who saw her success as something he was entitled to steal. So she made them an offer that was far more generous than they deserved. She gave them exactly 1 hour to pack their belongings and leave her property before she filed a comprehensive police report for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and attempted theft. 1 hour to disappear and try to figure out how to salvage what was left of their lives. Jessica, who had finally grasped the magnitude of what Alan had involved her in, grabbed her things and literally ran. She called someone to pick her up and disappeared into the night, smart enough to realize that her only chance of avoiding prison was to cooperate fully with authorities and distance herself from Alan as quickly as possible. But Alan was about to learn that actions have consequences and that some mistakes are too big to walk away from. The charges were incredibly serious: Class B felony fraud, forgery, attempted theft of property valued at over $500,000, identity theft, conspiracy. We're talking about 5 to 10 years in federal prison. And that's if he was lucky enough to get a lenient judge. Within hours, Natalie had filed a comprehensive police report with her attorney providing boxes of documentation, proving her ownership of the house and the fraudulent nature of Alan's attempted sale. The evidence was overwhelming. The paper trail was crystal clear. There was absolutely no way for Alan to claim this was a misunderstanding or a civil matter. But the story gets even more satisfying. Within weeks, Natalie had filed for divorce, changed every lock on the property, and completely redecorated the house to reflect her own taste for the first time in 18 years. No more compromising with someone else's terrible decisions. No more financial chaos lurking around every corner. No more walking on eggshells around someone whose next scheme might destroy everything she had worked for. Her business absolutely thrived like never before, without the constant stress and distraction of wondering what disaster Alan might create next. She was able to focus entirely on her work. She closed 3 major deals in the month following his arrest, including a massive warehouse complex that netted her a 6-figure commission. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, Natalie was living entirely for herself, making decisions based solely on what she wanted and what would make her happy. The divorce proceedings were remarkably simple. Alan had no assets to claim, no legitimate grievances to air, and a pending felony conviction that made him incredibly eager to avoid any additional legal scrutiny. Natalie kept the house, the business, her retirement accounts, and her freedom. Alan got to keep his liberty until sentencing, which wasn't scheduled for another 2 months. So what can we learn from Natalie's incredible story? First, and most importantly, protect yourself financially, especially if your partner has a documented history of poor financial decisions. Natalie's foresight in restructuring her assets after Alan's third major financial disaster literally saved her from complete ruin. Second, document everything. Natalie's meticulous record-keeping and legal preparation didn't just protect her assets, it provided law enforcement with everything they needed to prosecute Alan to the fullest extent of the law. And third, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply refusing to let someone else's chaos and criminal behavior destroy what you've spent your life building. Alan thought he was executing the ultimate con, the perfect crime that would set him up for life with his new girlfriend. Instead, he lost his wife, his home, his freedom, and his entire future. All because he was too arrogant and too stupid to realize that the woman he had been taking advantage of for 18 years was infinitely smarter than he had ever given her credit for. What do you think about this incredible story? Do you think Natalie handled this situation the right way, or would you have done something different? Have you ever had someone try to take advantage of you financially? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because I love hearing your perspectives on these stories. And if you enjoyed this tale of justice served cold, you're going to absolutely love my other videos, where people who thought they were getting away with something got exactly what they deserved. Make sure to check out my playlist of similar stories, where karma delivers the most brutal justice imaginable. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you think Alan got exactly what he deserved. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember to treat people with respect and honesty, because you never know when your actions might come back to completely destroy your life.